Carl here from Games, Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life, gbhbl.com for short, and we are taking another trip to our remote desert island. Who are we dropping off this time and leaving to live out the rest of his life in peace? It's only punk rocker Greg Rekus. Punk rocker, now that's how I like to kind of put you in your style. Would you call yourself a little bit more open and wider than that?
No, that's exactly what I want to be called. Since I was like 14 years old, all I wanted to be is like a punk rocker. I wanted it to happen, and now it did.
Is that you're trying to find a way to describe someone's musical style, and naturally we love to put everything in a category. You belong here, you belong there. That's what you sound like. And I always end up thinking, man, this is a bit more wide varying, but you need to just get that across. Are you or they, the band, going to be happy when I just go, oh yeah, they're a hardcore band, or they're a death metal band? Or do they want to be, no, we're more than that? I'm glad that you kind of got that focus.
Yeah, I like it too. And also I think like in terms of, we used to use such a definition of what you are as your identity, right? And more, I think people, possibly because music is now so accessible, you know, the invention of the iPod, all of a sudden now you got a gazillion CDs in your pocket instead of just two. But I think I still like to hold on to that, right? It's still part of my identity, is kind of the music I listen to. And perhaps that makes me old, perhaps not, but I still feel that it's part of who I am, and I want to live that.
Of course, we don't want to leave Greg bored on the island, so we've agreed to let him to take a few items with him. As always, Greg has been able to choose either 3 video games or books, depending upon your taste and what you enjoy, 3 horror movies, because we love horror, and 3 records. Always the hardest one for any musical artist, it seems. And 1 secret item that we never tell you about beforehand. That choice will come at the end. We will bring that up at the end, and it's off the top of your head. Greg, it is an absolute pleasure to speak with you again. 2019, I think we last had a chat on the phone. Yeah.
We did, yeah. That was, I think I had just started. I just started a tour or something.
Yes,
I can't
that's
remember.
right. Yeah. Your tour days.
Sounds like something I'd do.
How have you been?
I mean, all right. You know, in these times, we're all just kind of waiting it out and just trying to be patient and calm and wondering when you might see somewhat of a normal life. But or is this the new norm? Is this just how it is now? We just mask up and go and rock out at a concert together.
Interesting, yeah. And I guess we said you've touched it. It's the elephant in the room for any interview. We cannot start a single interview of any more without first asking these questions. How have you been holding up in 2020 overall?
I have actually been doing really good comparatively. I mean, for me to be doing the best I can is me on the road driving around in my shitty old van, having a blast and hanging out with all my friends all over the place. But if that is impossible, I'm still lucky that I still have employment, and Winnipeg has super low numbers right now. So we actually have quite a few freedoms compared to some places of other people I've been talking. There are concerts going on. I mean, not a lot of people are going out, but you know, you could still at least once a week probably go and see a band play, which is amazing. So I feel very lucky about that. And yeah, for the most part, I mean, aside from the no touring, I think I'm going to be okay. I think we're going to weather this storm. Also being a pretty small operation, just kind of, for the most part, just a one-man band driving around. I have enough kind of in the bank to kind of pay the bills, you know, for the next bunch of years.
Okay.
My album is thankfully paid off, which was amazing. So I'm in a really good spot to just kind of, okay, I guess we wait for a bit and we'll see what happens.
That's fantastic. It's so good to hear. So you've been able to effectively stay busy and keep yourself in a very positive mindset, particularly with the latter. It's not always easy for people.
No. I was doing a lot of the live streaming thing at the start, or not live streaming, more just recording myself playing and posting. But I found very quickly people were kind of like, the numbers of the interest in it was dropping off very quickly. And I kind of wanted a new challenge, just something that, well, if I can't tour, what's something else I could do that gives me all these new skills? So I ended up starting a YouTube channel called Far From Gregular. And basically I just research topics I really, really like and make a video about it. And and it's been really, really fun. So that's kind of been keeping me going. I was actually just working on the newest one before we started chatting, and I'm hoping to get it posted today. It's on stomping and the origins of stomping and perhaps where it came from and how long it's been around and a thing. And it's fun. It's just fun videos to do.
Fantastic. We will get onto that in a little bit then. Right, first category. Are you doing games or books, or combination of both?
I am a gamer. Although I am able to read, I barely do it. And there was a time in my life where I was a reader. I worked at a call center.
Okay.
And in calls, you were allowed to doodle. So you had your page. Like I practiced drawing a 3-dimensional house like a gazillion times at this job. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, they're like, yeah, you can read a book in between calls. And it was like, oh my God, I'm getting paid to read now?
Yeah.
I had my little ruler in my book. And just as you read, you just move the ruler down and then you get a call. So you hold the ruler there. You're like, hi, I'm Greg. I'm calling about a survey, blah, blah, blah. They hang up on you. You go back to your book. So I read like almost every Isaac Asimov book doing that. I read everything about Zachariah Sitchin and the 12th Planet. I got really into that for a while.
Wow.
It was great. But then once I quit that job and moved into more serious audio stuff, I don't know, when do you find the time, right?
That's it.
Yeah, and then on top of that, I am a gamer. I've always been a gamer. I did take a hiatus, kind of my early 20s. I was just really busy with the band and stuff and whatever. But yes, I am definitely a gamer, not a reader.
Okay. This is going to be fascinating then, when you can only choose 3. Let's get started then. What's your first choice?
Ooh, this is very, very difficult. And I feel I almost need subcategories of like console gaming, mobile gaming.
Oh, no, no way, absolutely.
Okay, understood. Well then, the game I've been playing for the longest is a game called Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. It is on my phone in terms of mobile games.
Wow.
There's other mobile games I really, really like that I'm hopelessly addicted to, but I'm only gonna give that one. I'm just gonna take one of those, so I'm gonna take that one.
Yeah, okay, why? What makes that so addictive?
Well, it's a collector game. I'm a bit of a collector. I don't have a lot of collections right now because we don't have a apartment at the moment, but I have a record collection. Most of them are old, crappy records that only I would ever love. I also have a VHS collection that I treasure with a bunch of movies that I will probably never watch again. At the same time, I don't know why it brings me happiness, but it does. And so that's part of the game, is you're collecting all these Star Wars characters, and then you kind of form squads and you fight other people's squads and stuff. And I don't know if I made it sound fun or not, but I've been playing it now for, I think we're coming on almost 5 years or 4 years.
Oh my goodness me.
I got in almost at the start of it. And it's one of those games I like because you can play it for 5 or 10 minutes in a day just to keep up with stuff, or you could probably play it for 5 hours if you had the time aside. Like there's a bunch of other stuff you can do, and even just like remodding your characters. And it's one of those games it's always going. There's always something new to do. And
correct me if I'm wrong, is that a free-to-play game?
it is a free-to-play game. If you do want to pay, then you get to win.
Yeah.
I don't mind losing. I've been losing all my life.
Completely makes sense. All right, Wicked, what's your second choice?
My second one would be Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System.
Oh my goodness, wow, that's an amazing choice.
Yeah, this is a game that I don't know how long I've been playing it ever since it came out. I was like the first kid on the block to get a Super Nintendo. And that was, I think, the first game I got. I'm pretty sure it came with the console back then. And it's one of those games that's easy to learn, challenging to master. If you go online, I actually did a Far From Gregular episode on the game. If you go online, there's like something like 60 different ways to beat the game in terms of speed running it. You know, if you've already mastered it and you want a harder challenge, you could even go up a tier and be like, okay, I'm now going to start speed running the game. But it's one of those games too, almost everyone is good enough to kind of play it with you. It's not a game like maybe a Super Metroid is another super popular game for Super Nintendo, but it's not really a game that anyone can just grab a controller and start doing. But you know, platformers, most people, or at least people around my age that I hang out with, have played platformers, so they're probably going to be able to beat a few levels at least in Mario and kind of make it fun. And I mean, I still, like, to this very day, at least once a year, I still pull it out and see if I can still beat it. So it's one of those games I don't think I could go if it just vanished off the planet. You know, it'd be like if all of a sudden tacos disappeared. Like,
when you're going to choose, right? So that's amazing to me because Mario has never been a nomination before, right? No one's ever
really?
a Mario game, which always surprises me considering the wealth of content from the very first all the way up to the modern latest versions that you're getting on the Switch and stuff like that. Yet Super Mario World, it's a well-loved game. I adore it too. It's very ingrained in my childhood, but perhaps it isn't the first one that comes to when I think of the SNES NES days. I think the third one is probably the one that jumps out more. Would you say Super Mario World then is like your favorite Mario game, or is it just because of this?
definitely my favorite Mario. Although I'm one of those situations where when I did take a bit of a hiatus from gaming, that was when games became 3D. So you're not just left or right, or like fake 3D where it's up, down, left, right. Like those are the only options.
Yeah.
All of a sudden now you have to look and you know, have to be able to kind of interact in that atmosphere. So the 3D Mario games I definitely never really got into. And then the other ones, like the one for the Switch, that was very much like Super Mario World. It was kind of an upgrade of that. Played it, loved it, very good game. I guess I'm just, you know, you can't teach an old punk new tricks. So that'd probably be why I would stick with Super Mario World. I still probably enjoy that one more.
Absolutely. And the last one there, what's your last choice?
Okay, so the last one, so to whittle it down, only 3 is super hard. And I just want to say, if anyone's watching this and my friend and like, as if you didn't say Street Fighter 2 or whatever.
Okay.
But I would say the last one would be Final Fantasy VII for the PlayStation. And I do worry that I would eventually get bored of beating it over and over again if I'm on a deserted island for the rest of my life and this is, you know, only Final Fantasy will get to play. And I am also a big fan of number 4. That is the one that I have probably beat the most.
4? Wow.
But 7 to me was more epic. Like the storyline got me in. I think I even shed a tear near the end. And in case people actually haven't played it, I won't spoil the ending. But there was so much. There were so many secrets. It was so hard to like fully complete. Like 100% done that game was something that I don't know if I would ever be able to do, even if I was on a deserted island only playing that game. So that would be my third and final one if I had to whittle it down to 3.
It is a popular choice for this series of videos. Number 7 comes up so much. I'm always disappointed that nobody ever says number 9. Did you follow on? Like, have you continued to play Final Fantasy games after that, or was that?
No, I have not. And again, a lot of it is because when do you find the time, right? Like when Final Fantasy VII, when it came out, I think it was in grade 11 or something. And my marks went down significantly that semester because I would come home, play that game until I had to go to bed. I think I might have even woke up early to play it in the morning at times. Like I was into that game. That's all I did. And I couldn't even imagine doing that now. I mean, between the music and the working and the trying to sleep at least 6 hours a day, there's just not enough time. But who knows? I mean, you know, these days, as the winter approaches in Winnipeg, usually I make it a point to disappear from Winnipeg and go on tour. But if not, then maybe I got to catch up on some Final Fantasy.
You might have a couple of hours spare per day where you can spend some time with it. Because, of course, obviously it's got a remake out as well. So
very excited. Yeah, although I don't have the console or anything that could potentially run that at the Momo, but we'll see. I'm just gonna leave it open-ended there. We'll see what happens.
Absolutely. Right, far from regular. First off, honestly, that tickles me in so many ways you would not believe. I find it hilarious. It's a great YouTube channel name, but you've already touched upon what it's kind of about. Can you go a bit more in depth, explain what you're doing on that channel?
So, like I was saying, like when the everything kind of started shutting down, all of a sudden you can't travel. I really wanted another outlet. I also wanted to keep putting content out, but like I was saying, I found it that doing the video over and over and over again, where here's me playing guitar again, was just people were kind of losing interest in it. And I still plan on doing live streams at least, you know, once every couple of months, but it was kind of a new challenge to, okay, now I have to learn to edit video and, you know, writing scripts, editing scripts. It was like new stuff, right? It was the first time in a while that I felt, I don't know how to do this thing I need to do. So that was really exciting reason to kind of start it. And one of the channels I really, really like that I wouldn't say I modeled it after because their channel is way better than mine will ever be, but it's a channel called Vsauce. And they don't post a lot of new videos anymore, but basically it's kind of the Michael Stevens guy who hosts it kind of just researches something and then kind of just goes through it, but he'll start at something and he'll kind of bounce around, right? Kind of like, I don't know if anyone has ever jumped down a YouTube rabbit hole, but you start at looking up like the weather today, and then you end at like black holes or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I really liked that, so I wanted to be kind of like that, to where I start, the one I just did, I started researching stomping, but I kind of branched out to more of like, when did music really start? And then kind of like, well, what contemporary examples are there of stomping? And is tap dancing stomping? And then, well, what's the fastest someone could tap dance? Like it's something that I just, kind of like my mind, right? It just constantly is like going to other places and trying to kind of, all encompass that into a channel is what my attempt was. And I don't know if I quite accomplished that yet, but I'm definitely going to keep doing them for a while. And I don't know, I hope people get the same happy feelings that they do when I watch it, because I think it's hilarious, but everyone thinks they're hilarious, right?
Yeah, I mean, but you got to remember, some of the biggest channels that exist in the world, you go back to their early episodes, it's a learning experience. As you will know, you've got a fair few videos up already. And I'm sure if you looked at your first one to your latest one and the one that's coming up, even from your perspective, stylistically, it probably feels quite different. Maybe?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm trying to kind of rotate between music, randomness, and video games. And I'm hoping I could kind of start to make playlists once I have enough. So if someone does like the video game ones, you can just kind of like, oh, I like his video game content, or something to kind of appeal to more than just kind of one thing. That's definitely how I identify. Even though I love video games, I don't feel that's the only thing I'm interested in. And to do a YouTube channel only about that would be unfair to the rest of my ego, I guess.
I think it's an important distinction. You've got to have something that makes you stand out a little bit different in some way. I mean, the fact that you do different things is making me smile, because that's literally what we do. The games, horror, heavy metal, 3 different pillars. What's the goal? What's your kind of goal with the channel? Is there a goal?
Yes to no. I mean, ultimately the goal is just to remain relevant, because I believe at some point touring will be possible again. To kind of do, just a couple live streams. Like, I'm used to every day playing somewhere. So every day you're engaging with people, you're kind of peddling your art, right? You're getting, even if one person a day is like, okay, this one person didn't see me and they were at this show and now they like me, like that's an accomplishment to me. And kind of not being able to do that, to be able to just kind of live stream once in a while, part of me was missing. So this again is something that's kind of new challenge, kind of getting me excited about something again, and hopefully to stay in touch with friends, right? Like an excuse to just write people to like, hey, person that we used to talk, every couple of months and now we never talk anymore. I just posted a new video, check it out. How are you doing? Are you okay? And a reason to engage with people again.
There's no harm at all in having more strings to your bow as an artist, any outlet possible, right? And it's the only way, it's one of the only ways in modern days to reach an audience when you're stuck at home.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is a cutthroat world. YouTube is a cutthroat world, man. How do you think you're going to make the channel stand out?
That's a hard question, actually, because I don't know if it will. Like, to be honest, you are 100% right. YouTube is it's the jungle. Welcome to the jungle. And I don't think I'll be able to compete with a lot of those bigger channels, to be honest. But I also think, like my music career, from a very early start of it, I kind of set realistic expectations of like, at the very start when my first band, High Five Drive, was playing, we actually had a meeting that we took notes at, where we were like, year 1, like buy a van. Year 2, like touring regular. Year 3, like an album out on a label. Year 5, as big as Blink-182. Like we had that meeting and actually talked, and we all believed it. And once we started getting more into it, I think, within a couple of years, we realized like, this is why not everybody just does that. This is super duper, scooper hard. And I kind of feel like the YouTube channel is the same thing. Like, to try to imagine that I'm going to make a living on it, I want a pony too, right? Like, if we're dreaming. But in terms of like, well, I have almost 200 people subscribed. And if that many people watch each video, hey, that's awesome, right? Like, to me, that's, I made something, people consumed it, my friends consumed it, we had a moment together, and kind of, for me, that's all it's really about. So I'm not too worried about really making it big or striking it huge on the YouTube. Also, I see a lot of people, like, it's, the internet is a big open pecking ground, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you post a video and someone goes, well, actually, what you said about this is incorrect, and here's the website to prove it. Like, I don't really want to have to engage with a lot of that and that kind of be a thing. Like, it's kind of fun making the videos and just, yeah, you know, some people watch it, as opposed to trying to go huge and trying to be the most perfect, excellent, factual anything, right? Like, there's always, someone is always gonna throw stones, right? Like,
Absolutely.
a wise person once said, haters gonna hate.
Yep. And that is never going to change. And the YouTube comments are, oh, dare I say, the cesspool of hate more than anything else.
Well put.
Right, we got our next category then, and it is horror. Simple horror movies. No complications, no choices, just 3 horror movies. And I would love to hear your first one.
The first, you might make fun of me because although I do very much enjoy horror movies, this one I think is fairly mainstream. But the one that scared me the most probably was The Ring.
Oh, do you mean American or the original J-horror?
The American one. And I know it's kind of like, if people are really into horror, then I probably seem like I just picked Budweiser as my favorite beer or something. But it honestly scared me for years. Every time I walked by a television, I was like, so I think
So go on.
Yeah. So I think if there was a movie that would definitely scare me over and over again, it would probably be that one.
You'll be safe from TVs buying the one that we let you have. Stylistically, though, like compared to the J-horror, it is the same film. It is a remake. And I'm not a big fan of the whole snobbery. Or what do you mean you like the American remake? You know, why haven't you seen the original J-horror? I'm not a fan of, I don't like that. If you like a horror movie and it has an effect on you in any way, shape or form, that's a good thing. Doesn't matter if someone likes it or doesn't. If it affects you, for me, it's done its job. That is the point. And I'm a big fan of The Ring. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely, it was one that I still, even talking about it, I'm looking at my TV now and going, is it going to happen?
Thankfully, it's outdated. Who uses VHS anymore? Although apparently you've got a bunch of them.
I do, yeah.
So maybe
Just in case.
Yeah, go check them and find out there's a blank tape there that you do not know exists. You will probably shit your pants.
If my partner can hear me, I could see there being a blank tape, you know, within a couple of down to play a joke on me or something.
Brilliant. All right, second choice.
A second choice would be Evil Dead. Yeah, again, I don't think it's not like definitely a deep cut or anything amazing, but it's solid. It's fun to watch. We actually just watched it the other day, me and my partner, and it still holds up. It's still a super fun movie and kind of gets that, like, I don't know, Bruce Campbell at that point was, I just loved his performance in it. It was so good. And it's creepy, right? Like, it's one of those, like, generally there wasn't a big budget, there wasn't a lot to make it scary, and they still made it, like, the shots going through the woods, there's like, I don't know, it gives me the willies still.
Absolutely, I think it's one that still holds up. I mean, the Evil Dead's effect on horror can't be understated. I mean, in our country, in the UK, during the 1980s, we obviously had, I don't know if you were aware of this, the video nasty scandal. Did you ever hear about this?
No, what was it?
It was a load of movies. Basically, the rating system wasn't up to scratch, and children were getting hold of, or movies were being advertised towards children. So there's a bit of a moral outrage involving some newspapers and particular political figures. So the British Board of Film Classification, the BBFC, put a load of films on a list that were banned, and it was called the Video Nasty List. There were 72 films that are now iconic for that very reason. Some have never been re-released in the UK. They're still banned, so to speak. A lot of them are now uncut and like rated at 15 and so on. You can get hold of them if you want. But one of those films was The Evil Dead, you know? So it had a huge effect when it was released in the 80s.
Yeah, that's one of those things where the undesired effect happens, right? Like you start to say, okay, we don't want anyone to see this, so we're going to make it illegal. And now it's the stuff everybody wants to see, you know, like don't think of an elephant, and what do you think of it?
Once you tell someone they cannot have something, it's like being a teenager and your parent says, you can't listen to punk rock. You're going to want to listen to punk rock.
There's got to be a reason why. I better find out why, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I am exactly the same bolt of cloth. Like that is me in a nutshell.
All right, your third one then. What's your last horror choice?
So the last one is, again, maybe it's not the deepest cut, but Nightmare on Elm Street #4 was the first horror movie I ever saw. And as I must have, as a kid, I must have seen like on the screen or something, but the first one I sat down with my buds when we were like maybe 10 years old or something, and we put it on and we were all super scared and everything. And that was one that I still like. It's still fun to go back, because when you watch it, you kind of remember the first time you saw it, and now it's like almost comical, right? It's more of a comedy than a horror in so many ways. But at the same time, it's still one of those like will always kind of time and a place for me.
Well, yeah, if you've got an association, I think everyone who's ever watched a horror movie has this association with a specific film that they saw either too young, that disturbed them, and you can watch it now and laugh at it, so to speak, but because of that association, those memories it brings, it automatically becomes a favorite. Particularly, you said no deep cuts, you've just pulled out Nightmare on Elm Street 4. No one says number 4. It's incredible.
Well, maybe if it was a deep cut, it wasn't necessarily a tasteful cut. But
there you go, absolutely. So, Greg, what's going on musically with you? Death and Taxes was released earlier this year. What's been going on since then?
So, to be honest, not a heck of a lot. We did do a couple live streams that were super fun, and I think part of the reason they're fun is because we weren't doing them all the time. When everything first shut down and I was canceled my tour, I was quarantining in this tiny little crappy hotel room.
Ooh.
And it was like you could like kick your way through the wall, right? Like if the person coughed 2 doors down, I heard it loud and clear in my own residence. So I thought, I better not play guitar in here. Like if someone is like hanging out or whatever, I don't want to bug the hell out of them.
Yeah.
We started doing it in the van, and that was kind of the start of that whole segment where I was doing a video every day. And some people told me, honestly, like just to get through the day, we enjoyed that every day. We could go, I posted them about the same amount of times. So every day at some point you could go and kind of see the next video. But as I was kind of getting less and less popular, I kind of stopped doing that less. And even though I tour solo, I have a band in Winnipeg that obviously everyone's heard on record.
Yeah.
And so we still jam about once a week, once every 2 weeks, just for fun, just because we love playing and, kind of messing around with covers or all the songs we wrote, we love. And so that's still fun. And any excuse to hang out with them and drink some beers. And I'm still making it to the space about once or twice a week on my own, in addition to that, just to play guitar and keep my chops up and stuff. And because I love it. But yeah, I haven't been doing a heck of a lot. I was kind of tossing around a Bare Naked Ladies cover off the Gordon album, because I am a huge fan of that. That was actually the first live band I ever saw in Winnipeg, was the Bare Naked Ladies. Oh, and although their later catalog, I wouldn't say gets me excited, I think the Gordon album was one of those, like, their entire career up to that point was writing that album, all that, and then after that, now they're just at that point where, okay, now every couple of years we put something together and release it. I'm not saying anyone who thinks their later catalog is bad, like it's fine, it's good, but it doesn't give me the same feeling that earlier one does. I think the earlier one was slightly wittier, and it was less, it was more like, this is who we are, love us or leave us. Whereas the later stuff was more like, well, we are kind of cool actually, and we can write good songs. But I hope I don't get emails from any of the Bare Naked Ladies or their following because of that. So I haven't been doing a heck of a lot. I know a lot of people are kind of saying like, oh, chance to write, chance to record. But for me, I like to put gaps between albums. I like to have about 3 years until I do another one, so that it doesn't sound like B-sides off the last record. It doesn't sound like, oh, he was in, like, I like to kind of turn a couple more pages in the book of life before I try to, write more songs and commit something to recordings. And so since I just did a new record, if I was going to come up with stuff now, I think a lot of it would just sound like lousy B-sides or
Because you're
whatever.
still focused on that kind of writing period.
Yeah, yeah. And I've also, like, not that, just make sure it's very clear, I'm not planning on stopping to play music at any time soon or anything like that. But I have been going nonstop for about the last 20 years. You know, when I was like 18-ish, my entire life was doing punk shows and bringing in local touring bands to Winnipeg and just trying to keep the scene going, being part of the scene. And then I kind of transitioned into playing the touring band myself, and that went until 2010. And then when that ended, I immediately jumped into the solo thing and gave her for the last 10 years. So to kind of be a little bit more passive, I'll always be playing. Obviously, I'll never stop. And like I said, I mean, 3 times a week, I'm still hanging out with my guitar. But it's definitely not a bad thing, I think, to just kind of chill on it for a minute and, you know, just kind of, it's on the back burner. It's still there. The pot's still simmering. And it's going to be great, but kind of go on to a few other challenges for the Momo and just be patient and wait till we can all rock together again one day.
It sounds like it's a well-deserved break, so to speak, without being a full break, as you say, because you're still doing it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's also not the worst thing in the world to put it down and remember why I love it so much. Like, every summer I work as a sound engineer, and I mean, there's barely time to sleep, never mind hang out with the guitar. So I kind of have a mini experience of that where, you know, you'll go a couple weeks without playing and then you grab it and it's like the best feeling in the world. It feels like I haven't played for years and so yeah, I feel that's going to be kind of what's going to happen when I get on the road, that first road show.
Oh.
Like, I will be perma-smile, like I will probably, you know, I will have a heart attack when it's happening because I'll be going so hard. There'll have to be a machine next to me to kind of clear and then stop more and then have another heart attack. And so I'm very excited for when that time comes.
So you didn't feel any pressure, as you said, the expectation on artists seems to be a high expectation that, hey guys, you have all this time off from not touring. You best be writing new material, and it's got a bit silly in regards to that. So you've managed to avoid having that pressure put on you.
Definitely. I may be lying if people didn't say I should write things like that, but I feel like, well, have you listened to the new record? Maybe check out my back catalog. When's the last time you put on the Dude Abides, right? Like it's, you put out all this content and you know, you wonder, people are like, we need something new. Like, well, did you check out the old stuff yet? So if anybody is that is my volley back to anyone who is giving me shit because I'm not writing new stuff right now.
There's plenty of stuff, basically. You've got no excuse to be saying you don't have much to listen to in regards to what you're doing.
Very true. Yeah, very true.
I mean, and you said a lot about the live streams and stuff like that, but when you've been looking online and you see what is become quite the norm, the live streams, but also quite, dare I say, high production values and shows and stuff like that, did it ever cross your mind where you're thinking, yeah, you know what, maybe we should plan to do one big one really high production value and this and so on? That ever cross your mind?
No, that's actually not a bad idea. But the hard thing about it, the few I've done, is we found like it's not hard to get people to watch it, right? To people get somewhat interested if you don't do it all the time. But in terms of trying to get someone to kind of pay to watch it.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, high production value, there's definitely going to be a price tag attached, right? Like if, you know, maybe I could scramble and find someone who would do it for free or for not a lot of money, but you know, that's kind of already what we've been doing, like to try to knock it up a notch, to say, okay, we're going to spend, you know, $500, get the crew down here, $1,000 to make something amazing. It's going to be the best shot thing I've ever been a part of. And then, you know, 2,000 people watch it and the total contribution is like $18 or something. Like it, I think right now it's just not really in the budget. I was saying before, like I'm doing okay. At the same time, I'm not really rich or anything. I don't have much disposable income that I can just kind of toss away to do something like that. But I do like, I feel we've been kind of kicking it up a little bit every time. One live stream we did that was super fun this summer was our sax player, Daryl. His parents have this beautiful backyard and it's like this big garden basically. And we set up there and we did it in there, and we invited about 25 of our friends, you know, social distance, everything. And it was great. It felt like playing a live show again.
Yeah.
I think one other thing about the live streams that we kind of figured out is you need somebody there. Even if it's like 3 friends hanging out, drinking beers, you just need someone that after you finish, you could be like, thanks, and like, ah.
Yeah.
Because the ones I did in front of the phone, you play and then you're like, thanks. I don't know if you're clapping. When I watch these at home, I don't clap. So I don't know why I'm like, it just feels so like such a sitting target. You're like, this is so lame. Like it's like I'm at like in junior high school with a bunch of like kids that couldn't care any less about what I'm doing. And I'm trying to like, okay, look at me go.
It's awkward. It's awkward as hell. I've seen live streams where the idea is to talk to the camera as if it's an audience. And you can see the band members struggling like hell with it and clearly awkward about it.
Yeah, I even feel we got it easier than the comedians. Could you imagine being a comedian and trying to do a live stream? Like I would almost like, I would want fake laughs, even though I know in my brain these laughs are 100% fake. I would just want a button that after my joke, I push it just to kind of hear. So I don't think we have it as bad as them and stuff, but yeah, it's where we're at, right? What can you do? We're waiting it out like everyone else.
That's it. It is the common theme. Let's wait and see. Right, last category, record, music. And I imagine you've got quite a varied taste.
Yeah, you are correct. One of my favorite things to do when I first started collecting records, it wasn't even that long ago. I think it was like 2012 was when I finally, I was moving that year and I dug out my parents' old record collection, which was like maybe 10, 20 records at most. And my roommate at the time, it was almost Christmas, I think, he was like, oh, I should buy a record player. We could listen to these, it'd be fun. And we started going to flea markets and you could find a record for like $1. I mean, that was really good. But at the same time, it's something like I would never go online and just randomly search this and listen to this. Like this is kind of the only reason I'm hearing this is because it was at that thrift store.
Awesome.
Which I think is amazing, right? It's one of those things that.
But yeah, first one.
So 3 records I couldn't live without.
Yeah.
And again, disclaimer, if anyone is like, no, that's not true. He's blah, blah, blah. This is his favorite record. Like it's hard to whittle it down to just 3.
Absolutely. And I'm sure if I asked you, you could do 3. And if I asked you in an hour's time, that 3 would be completely different.
Exactly. Or if you were like, wanted me to do 1,000, I could probably make a list of that easily. But so one album that as I was a huge fan of it when it first came out. I saw the band when they were just starting to tour and I felt kind of like, really that I was a part of that, even though I was obviously not in the band at all. You just felt like you were like an auxiliary member of the band. It was a band called Moneen. And I don't know how popular Moneen really was everywhere else. I know they made some waves in the States because they were on Vagrant Records, but their first EP, Smaller Chairs for the Early 1900s, it's just 4 songs. It is a banger. Every song is like the best song you've ever heard. And that was one I couldn't imagine not being able to ever hear that album again.
I have never heard of this band. What would you describe their music like?
It was like late 90s, very early 2000s emo. And they like never dyed the hair. They never did the style. They were basically dressed like indie rock kids with, you know, whatever, like old scrubby band shirt and a pair of jeans. Like they didn't really go into that huge style. At the same time, like, they also had like an experimental portion to them. Like every set when they first started playing would end basically at some point. The drummer kept going, and at some point the guy's guitar would just go flying because he was just going so crazy, and it like hit the wall, hit the ground, and then it's just noise, and he's on his delay pedal with the like
oh wow.
I'd never seen anything like it, and I was an instant fan. I actually ran through one of the scariest neighborhoods of Winnipeg at the time, all the way to a 7-Eleven as like an 18-year-old, like tiny little, you know, sitting target to take out my last $20 to go and buy this CD because I had to have this thing. So if I could never listen to that album again, that would be devastating to me, I feel.
I'm gonna have to search them up afterwards. So they're not around anymore, yeah?
They're not around anymore, no. Unfortunately, the last album they did was quite a bit slower. Although it did have a few bangers on it, it was kind of like, okay, that's kind of the ending, right? They're cooling down. You're older now, right? You're chilling. But the earlier material is amazing. I love it so much, and it's so creative. It's so interesting. There's always something going on, and It's great. I love them so much.
Fantastic. Second choice then. What's the second album?
Second choice, and I'm scared because now I'm going to seem like people are going to think that I'm only into emo, that even though I call myself a punk rocker, that I am not a punk at all. But there's a band called the Get Up Kids that was kind of actually in the same genre perhaps as Moneen. Moneen was perhaps a Canadian version of the Get Up Kids, if they obviously saw them before they started that band. And Something to Write Home About, I actually have a tattoo on my right shoulder of the cover right there.
Awesome.
And it is an album that it goes everywhere. It is a banger. At the same time, it has slow stuff that I actually like, which is hard because I for the most part, I am like, no, it's got to be a banger. It's got to be something fast. I shy away from even writing slow stuff. And for whatever reason, this album, time and place, whatever it was, it captured me. And I almost saw them live. They came to Winnipeg in 1999. I was just old enough to get into the bar. I went to the bar, it was $10 to see them at this place called the Royal Albert. When I got there, there was a sign that said $2. So I knew right away something was wrong. They did not make it across the border. The Canadian border thought the Get Up Kids are too dangerous for Canada. They gotta remain in the States. So I never got to see them until years and years and years later at the Fest in Gainesville, Florida. And I mean, it was good, but by then, they were definitely older. And, that was the Something to Write Home About album had just come out. That was that tour. That questionably would have been the greatest show of my life. And I missed it. So will always be sad about that. But that is another album. I don't think I could ever imagine not hearing that one ever again.
That's fascinating. I completely share your experience of having the opportunity of seeing them, but then seeing them later on when ultimately the moment has passed or the age has caught up, and you've missed the point where, well, as you say, it would have been spectacular. Didn't get across the border. What on earth? Hilarious.
Yeah, I don't know, a bunch of nerdy emo kids. I don't know why they didn't let them in, but whatever. Maybe there was a reason, right? Maybe there's an alternate reality where the Get Up Kids came, and as they were playing, one of the guitar strings popped off and went whoa, 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 and just happened that this bright-eyed, young punk rocker in the crowd who was standing front row looked up at that exact moment, and it went right through his brain, only hitting the part that thinks of how to make music. And then he never made any music ever again, and that kid would have been me. So maybe that's why it didn't happen. But
I think you just described a point in a Final Destination movie. I think that's what you've just done. Okay, what's your third choice then? Is it wildly different?
No, the third choice, I am going to pick one of my favorite punk rock albums. Okay, and cool. Again, we could go all day, and there's so many, I'm just kicking myself. But I would say How to Clean Anything by Propaganda would be the other album. And although I love their later stuff, I like everything they've ever done. Again, that is the album that, when it first hit, I couldn't believe it. When punk started kind of getting bigger and all of a sudden it's accessible to everybody in suburbia and everything, I was really into Nirvana before that.
Oh, yeah.
And How to Clean Everything was one of the first punk albums I ever heard. And I lost my mind. I was like, oh my God, this is like Nirvana, but it's fun. This is loud guitars, but it's not super depressing and super downer all the time. And it's and the amount of times that Chris Hanna said fuck was because I was a stupid little kid, right? I didn't read any of the lyrics yet. It wasn't until years later that I was actually wow, and these guys are also really smart. But that would be the other album that I couldn't imagine never hearing that album again. From the start, it's a banger, and all those songs are part of me, right? So that would be my top three. And it's again with an asterisk that oh my God, there's so many other albums out there that I can't imagine I would never get to hear them again. But if I had to whittle it down at this exact moment in time space, then I would say those three.
Most bands and artists that we speak to when we do this tend to start choosing, and I think you've done something similar, where it's more about what maybe influenced or turned them onto a certain style and maybe encouraged what they would later do in their life. Say if you were a thrash band, then chances are you'd start when you first heard your first thrash album. Would you say that each of these albums, or at least the ones when you were younger, had this massive influence on what kind of artist you would be?
100%. You're nailed it right there. Like the Get Up Kids definitely. I don't know if it is reflective in my writing. That one album in particular, because honest, the 4 Minute Mile was like, yeah, it's not quite there yet. Like it's good, and you know, again, I'm gonna get 100 angry emails from Get Up Kids fans everywhere. They're gonna be like, you don't know what you're talking about. But and then the after stuff was just kind of slower. You know, again, it was kind of that like, oh, we're cooling down, right? We had the bang, and we're kind of just winding it down kind of thing. Moneen, I mean, to see a band do that, perform that live show, I definitely took a page out of them of like, play like it's the last show you'll ever get to play ever again. And in terms of how much that band toured when they were starting with like, you know, they had like a small label behind them and they were on the road 24/7. That's all those guys were doing, which was amazing. That really inspired me to like, yes, I want to do this. And then again, like you said, Propaganda, like Time and a Place, that's when I was getting into punk. That's when I was transitioning from like, yeah, Pearl Jam is cool and yeah, Nirvana obviously, to like, wow, like there's all these other bands out there that aren't in the mainstream that most people don't know about that are incredible, that, you know, you could go see. Like first time I ever saw Propaganda, it was a benefit for an organization called ARA. It was Rock Against Racism, the show was called, and they headlined it. It was like $10 to get in, right? Like
perfect bargain.
You have to think like your all-time favorite bands, like so many arena shows are, you know, what, like $300 to see, you know, a bunch of old men that used to be Motley Crue and are kind of still Motley Crue that like fought around the stage a bunch, versus like $10 to see my favorite band. Like, but anyways, again, my inbox will be full of angry emails from angry Motley Crue fans and angry Get Up Kids fans.
I was about to say, you keep saying that you've outraged some fans, and then you go and proceed to insult Motley Crue, considered one of the greatest rock bands in the world.
Yeah, they're pretty good. Don't get me wrong. I like them.
Each to our own. All right, let's focus on the future. What immediate plans do you have over the next couple of months? Anything you can share, or is there anything at all?
Yeah, no, not a big secret. Right now, I'm actually just kind of trying to put away what I can in my savings. I'm working a bunch, trying to take every possible sound gig I can, and I'm still doing the day job almost every day, not a weekend, but 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. I'm just another working stiff.
Yep.
But the way I see it, either things are going to get worse, so I'm going to need a bunch of money to kind of live on. Things are going to get better, so I'm going to need a bunch of money to tour on. So that's been a pretty big focus in terms of like wearing the adult pants and just trying to be ready for what's going to happen next. Definitely going to keep doing the channel. I really like doing it. It's been really fun. I'm going to try to, I was really working on promoting it the last month or so. I did a bunch of videos and try to really push it out there. I'm going to go back to doing the videos again. So I'm looking forward to that, trying to bang out 2 or maybe 3 a month if I can. And we're definitely going to try to do another live stream before the year is out.
Yeah.
I don't know definite plans exactly what. And just chilling, right? Like we said, I'll probably dust off the Final Fantasy VII and try to get through it, or try to speed run Super Mario World or something. And you know, as it's already starting to get cold outside in Winnipeg. It's only going to get colder. And
you've said you've got plans, but they're all dependent upon what happens next. And it's the same if you want to sit down and end up being forced to shelter away inside for 2 weeks or whatever. That will all depend. Everything is dependent. But what you can control to a degree, and you've talked a little bit about it in a more on the script way with the goals. What's a realistic goal, something you can work towards over the next 12 months to do with the channel, I guess, more than anything else that would leave you satisfied?
Yeah. I guess it'd be a combo of that, of doing another live stream, making it as good as it can be. And then in terms of the channel, I would love to hit like 12 months. I would love to try to hit 50 videos and kind of be at a point where, or maybe that's a bit high, that sounds like a lot, but hit a point where I have enough that I can have the playlists. So, you know, there might be people that have no idea that I don't only do video games, and right, just having a library of stuff that if you liked this, then there's probably another several videos like that. And just keep on living, right? Like I've also, and I think a lot of people can account of this, now that we're kind of stuck indoors, I've been writing people I haven't talked to for years just to say hello, right? Like you do have more time, and you don't kind of, you know, as I've noticed, at least as I've been getting older, your friend circle just kind of whittles down to just a few less people. That, you know, there's not a lot of time. You can only have so many chances to hang out. And so to try to kind of re-expand to like, no, I want to talk to more people and to keep in touch with everyone I normally see on tour, right? Normally it's effortless because, well, you know, if we don't talk all year, I am going to see you at some point because I will be back in town and we'll make the effort. But now that little alarm clock that goes off to where, oh, Greg's in town again, better go see him, that isn't going to happen. So you definitely have to make that effort to like write the people and check in on each other and make sure, you know, everyone's good and, you know, no one's gone into the rocks or anything and they're sinking, like make sure they're okay.
Yeah, I think that's a forgotten benefit of this period throughout the entire world. Like we are right now, this is on Zoom. I hadn't heard of Zoom before this all kicked off. I didn't even know Zoom existed. And now it's all Zoom quizzes and people are reconnecting with people they probably haven't spoken to in 6 months or longer because, hey, let's just jump on Zoom and do a quiz. You know, and it's a benefit. It's a nice thing. It's a reconnection. Yeah,
no, definitely. I think it's definitely seeing the silver lining in this. And actually, Daryl's dad, Daryl's the sax player in my band. His dad kind of said that of like, you know, if this didn't happen, we wouldn't have done this event in our backyard. And, you know, Daryl's dad and mom never would have met us, right? Like the rest of the band, right? They've been to a show and we said a quick hello, but, you know, we're actually able to kind of hang out for an evening and sit down and actually have some real interesting talks. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, you got to take the good with the bad and bad with the good.
Well, what can people then, at this stage, do to support you during this period?
I think share the YouTube channel and help get that out there. I've been Spotify. I've never been a huge Spotify person, but it's been steady and it hasn't let down. If anything, it's gone up a bit, which is great. I felt it was such a shame that I just did this new album. I think Death and Taxes is arguably my best one yet. I think the songs and the performance, like it was just one of those albums where it came together. It was effortless. It was the first album I could think of where the last day of recording, it was done. We were just doing extra stuff.
Oh, awesome.
To add like a little organ part there. And then we like buried it so deep in the mix, you can only hear it on headphones. So it's like a little Easter egg parts. And like I think we actually spent 30 minutes recording different openings of beers and pouring beers into a glass, like stuff we'd never do. Right. So I feel like in terms of that, it's a wonderful, amazing album. And unfortunately, because I'm not touring it, that's the way 99% of my sales are off the stage. That's the way most people find out about my music or get into the new stuff I did. So I guess just, you know, if people have a chance to just post of like, hey, check out Greg's new record or something like that, that's it, right? Just helping me get the bullhorn going and like, hey, everyone, just so you know. So that'd be the biggest thing I think all my friends could help out with. And they have been too. People have been so supportive. When I first canceled my tour, I think 3 friends bought my album for like 3 times what I was asking. I think one person spent $100 to buy my record. Like my friends have been so awesome in this already. And luckiest person in the world, right? I feel I got good people around me almost all the time. Even if they're not physically here, we're all in the ether together. So.
Love it. Right, before you go, then we said at the start, there is an extra category, an extra thing that you get to take on the island with. And effectively, it's a luxury item. It's basically something, it can be anything you want, but you generally feel you cannot live without. Now, musicians are the worst for this because they almost always say the bloody instrument they are bringing. You can if you really want to, but we always try and push you somewhere else.
Right, okay, so I won't... I won't say this, but this is also going to be, maybe this will sound totally dumb also, but being someone who travels a lot throughout everywhere, and when you're sleeping on other people's floors, you know, about 2/3 of the year, there is kind of that item that I bring with me every tour. And if anyone has ever put me up, if I've ever crashed at someone's house, they probably already know what I'm going to say. I have a sock monkey onesie. I have an adult-sized onesie that has sock monkey feet on it. That is my comfort spot. That is my, like, no matter what couch or gross floor or in the van, what truck stop I'm sleeping. It doesn't matter where I am. When I put that thing on, you know, it's bedtime. It's sleepy time express. And I think if I was stuck on a deserted island, I would want to have that there, just so every night, even though I'm like going to bed, I can just be like, you know, okay, it's bedtime, everyone. Pull out my little pillow of sand, and that's that.
Best one so far. I love that. That's amazing. Greg, that's it. Thank you very, very much for your time. Really appreciate this.
Yeah, anytime, man. It's always fun chatting, and thank you so much for having me. It really means a lot, man. Really appreciate it.
And make sure you check out the channel, people. Of course, far from Gregular. It still makes me smile.
Woo!
That's it, mate. That's it. That's where we're done. Awesome. Well, thanks for this. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I love talking, man. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon to help us out over there. That's patreon.com/GBHBL, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?